right, what is going on, Predators? It's Travis here with Apex Predator Outdoors. Today we got a special guest here we're going to be talking to, and we're going to be talking about being fit, being in outdoors, and shooting your bow and making yourself better at archery, because that's what we want to do here. We're going to grow and become better hunters, better archers as much as we can. So, with me today we've got Dean. Dean, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's been a fun day of travel, man. So I'm glad we got able to put this together, and I'm really excited, man, about talking to Brian too. It's kind of funny how you probably don't remember how I met you, but I watched you do a deal on the corrugate guide pants, and it reached out to you about the sizing, and ever since then I was like, we got to get this guy on, because I started kind of looking at some of the stuff you were doing. I was like very interested. So thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking some time out and spending it with us, and introduce yourself, kind of who you are, how you got into this, and what you do, and we'll roll from there.
Yeah, you bet. Well, Dean and Travis, thanks for having me on. I appreciate this opportunity, and maybe giving your listeners something to chew on for a little bit when it comes to bow hunting and our events and stuff. So, yeah, Brian Austin. I am from southern Wisconsin, owner of the Beast Mode Archer Challenge and GFB Outdoors. Been in the fitness industry now for 20 plus years. Been doing personal training and group classes and kind of all that good stuff when it comes to health and wellness and fitness. And about 5-6 years ago, I decided to kind of merge those two together. My two passions for bow hunting and archery, along with being active and fit and coming up with events that people can do with their bow and arrow that's going to help prepare them for whatever hunt they might be going on in the fall, whether it be anything from a Midwest deer hunt to a backcountry elk hunt or sheep hunt or whatever it might be. So doing events at Tyrrell Basin Ski Resort here in the southern part of the state this is the 4th year now that we've been doing events there. And it kind of grew from me doing competitions like Train to Hunt that used to be around, and the Alpha Bow Hunting Challenge, and really going all over the country trying to do these events, and nothing was really based here in Wisconsin. Wisconsin has, according to, I think it's Pope and Young or the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation did a study, and we have over 300,000 bow hunters.
Wow.
I think the only state that exceeds us is maybe Pennsylvania.
Wow.
But I think we have more bow hunters in this state than just about all the Western states put together. So archery and bow hunting is something that's really big here in Wisconsin and in the Midwest. So it just made sense for us to do these types of events here in this part of the nation. So.
And with the events there, I kind of was looking at them a little bit. It's almost got a CrossFit feel to it. Is that sort of?
Yeah, you could say that for sure. It's definitely, we get a lot of CrossFitters that do the events, and I think what's similar about it is possible. I'm not a CrossFitter myself, but I think that they have a great community, and they really encourage one another, and it's that community feel. And that's really what our events are about too. It's bringing a lot of like-minded folks together and pushing one another. And yeah, it's a competition. We're trying to challenge each other, but everybody's out there cheering each other on as well too, because these events and being a bow hunter, our main goal is to be as fit as we can come September or October. And these events are really just kind of benchmarks to get us to that point, and to help motivate us and keep us on track and encourage us to not sit on the couch for too long in the winter.
Right.
Especially here in Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's a bit chilly and hard to work out outside in it.
Yeah, it could be 20 below one day and 50 degrees the next day here in springtime. So
Sure.
You just don't know what you're going to have.
Sure. And I know you had different events too. Are they all essentially the same, or do you have kind of like a beginner set, or learning how to bow hunt, or
Yeah, they're all different, unique in a different way. Like this event that's coming up here at the end of April, April 29th, is the Beast Mode Endurance Archery Challenge. And this is the first time that we're doing a challenge like this. This was actually supposed to be our very first event back in 2020, but when the pandemic hit, we had to cancel this event because it was going to be in the spring of that year. And if you remember, that was when everything was blowing up. So we're bringing this event back. So this event is really geared towards people that are to kind of simulate what you might encounter in a day out in the mountains. Gotcha. So we're starting out this year. It's going to be an 8-hour event. I think as the years progress, I'd like to build it into a 12 and then eventually a 24-hour event. So it's going to be actually, obviously it's in endurance. It's the Beast Mode Endurance Archery Challenge. So you try to complete as many laps as you can in the 8 hours, and we're going to have targets on each lap. That depending on how you shoot those targets, if you get if you hit a heart or a lung, great, you get to move on and finish out the lap and continue on. If you get a body or if you wound the animal or if you miss the animal, there's going to be an actual challenge that you have to complete. Might be a sled pull, let's say a 300-yard sled pull, or it might be an extra hill climb or something like that you have to complete before you get to move on. So.
Wow.
So it's actually a very simple event from my point of view. From putting it on, is just come up with a lap, and people just do as many laps as they can in those 8 hours. So we have people sign up for that have never done one of our events and are somewhat intimidated because they're like, man, I haven't been doing much and I've never done something like this. And I was like, look at it as just it's a day of scouting. You're going out and you're walking for 8 hours.
Right.
It's again, I have this event in April so that it hopefully would help people to stay motivated through the winter.
Sure.
And it got people out to do some hiking and rucking and stuff over the last 2 months as the weather got better. But also this time of year, it kind of replicates what we're going to experience in September and October in terms of weather, temperature, that type of stuff. So that's why we have this event kind of the end of April.
And then you get punished for making a bad shot, which I love.
Right, exactly. Well, and usually in our other events, like the BMAC games that's in June, there's a time penalty associated with the shots, where there's a penalty if you shoot a body or a miss, and then there's a bonus if you shoot a heart. But this event, I wanted to make this a little different so that if you have to do something that's going to physically challenge you and deplete your energy stores even more, just like if you're in the mountains going on an elk hunt and you hit an animal and you don't know if you killed it or not, you could spend a day, maybe 2 days searching for that animal to make sure that you didn't, it's not dead somewhere.
Sure.
That's kind of where that comes into play. So.
Very interesting. And this one specifically individualized? Because I think there's a couple you had that you could do some teams also.
Right. This one you can do as a team. So you can do it solo, or you can do it as a team of 3 or 4. I believe the solo men have to carry 30 pounds on their back with their bow and gear. Teams have to do 100 pounds. So if it's a team of 3, you can split that weight up between the 3 of you however you want. Team of 4, same thing. You can split that up. If you have a team of 4, you have a little bit of flexibility there. You can have at least 3 people on your team have to be out on the course at one time.
Okay.
So that 4th person could be resting, and you could alternate between them, or you keep all 4 out on the course, and your average pack weight would be maybe a little less. So there's going to be some strategy to play there with some of the teams on how they want to strategize that. So,
and then is it co-ed as well, or does that matter?
Yep. They can have co-ed teams, and I believe it's 5 pounds for every woman that you have on your team. You can take that off of the 100 pounds.
Oh, okay.
So there's a little, if you have, 2 women on your team, you can take a total, I believe it's 5 or 10 pounds a person of that. So you can do that. And I do try to, for the women, their weights are a little different, but really when it comes down to, and this is something that's new for this event, is that there's no age groups. It's because yes, it's a competition, but again, our main goal is hunting season. The mountains don't care if you're a man or a woman or if you're 65 or 25.
Right.
You still got to carry the same amount of gear for the most part. You still got to put in that work. So that's something that we're trying out with this event, is that we're not having any age groups. We do have a men and women's division, and we obviously the teams can be co-ed or all men or all women, whatever they want. So, but no age groups.
That's awesome. I mean, that just sounds like it would be a hoot to do. Like, we need to get a team and zip up there. Do you have a lot of out-of-staters come, or are they?
Yeah, I think right now we have about 30 to 35 signed up, which is a good number to start with. I think we'll probably end up with about 50 competitors, which for the first time doing this type of event, I'm very happy with.
Yeah.
And I believe we have 11 states coming so far. So it's not just Wisconsin people. There's people from all over the Midwest. I believe there's a person from Virginia, somebody from Florida.
Oh, wow.
So we got, people coming from all over, because you just can't find events like this. So people that are pretty diehard to do this type of stuff are willing to travel. So
is this part of the growth plan to eventually start traveling around, kind of like how the TAC and all those some of the other 3D events have gotten out there and traveled around the country? Or
so our plan was to do that last year or 2 years ago, but it just got too expensive with everything that was happening and gas prices that were going up at that time, and it was to take this, I guess, this show on the road. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and really what makes our events really special is our relationship with Tyrol Basin and our ability to put on these events there and to make trails and to do all that kind of stuff and have a great working relationship with them. And it's hard to find that if you try to find a archery club or a bow club, there's just a lot of red tape and a lot of red flags and things that you got to work through to make an event like this happen there. And in most ski hills across the east and even the west that I've worked with in the past, they just want so much up front, or they want stuff to be guaranteed. And these types of events is just hard to break even, let alone factor in the travel costs and stuff like that. So I would love, long answer short, I would love to take this on the road. I think there's a lot of demand for it. It's just a matter of finding the right events and the right venues that are willing to work with us and be flexible.
What's the elevation you guys have there? Is that to help them prep for Western?
Yeah, it's not high at all. I think we're right around 1,000 feet and above sea level, so we're not at elevation at all. But for example, the BMAC games, the course that we have for that has usually been between 2,000 and 3,000 foot of elevation gain and loss. Okay. So we go up and down the hill a lot. In different ways. There's a lot of different slopes we can utilize in the woods and stuff like that. So we do get a fair amount of ups and downs. We just are not at elevation, I guess.
Sure.
This part of the state is pretty hilly. Obviously we don't have mountains, but it is pretty hilly here. So
you're way higher than where I'm at. I'm 13 feet below sea level. So
yeah. That's and then you throw some weight on there. You might as well. I mean, it doesn't matter, right? I mean, you start carrying 40, 50 pounds on your back. Right. 1,000 feet, maybe 50 at that point if you're not used to it.
Yeah, exactly. And then the BMAC games is in the end of June. Usually it's hot and humid, and that humidity for a lot of people, it affects them more than what elevation does. So it's not untypical for us to have 90 plus humidity and 80 to 90. The one year it was 103 when we did an event. Wow. So we may not have the elevation, but we have other things that we have to contend with. So.
And y'all cover while you're there, do any like nutrition or any of those kind of talks just for people coming from the flatlander to the mountains so they get used to it?
Right. I've done a couple of videos, YouTube videos on that. We, obviously in the competitor meetings, before the event, we talk a little bit about making sure you're hydrated and replenishing your fuel and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
but really, in terms of that comes down to the person, being responsible and educating themselves ahead of time. And most of these people are, because they are kind of hunter athletes, I guess, if you want to say that. So most of them know how to hydrate and take care of themselves.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but that is something that probably should put a little bit more emphasis on.
And then when you're doing your training, how do you approach that again, kind of for the people that are the flatlanders to the mountains? Are you doing a lot of rucking,
Whoop.
a lot of pack work, a lot of oh, there we are. There we go.
There you go. Yep. So most of our training, especially people that are, Easterners or in the flats, there is really no substitute for rucking. I mean, you got to spend time. If your hunt is in the mountains and it's, a backpack style hunt, rather it be a backcountry hunt, or even if you're doing a day hunt from your truck, you got to spend time with your pack on and you got to ruck. I mean, that is the number one thing for people to do. Now, again, depending on where that person is coming from, if they're already pretty fit, or are they coming from the couch and haven't they done anything? There's things that we would prescribe differently for those people. Obviously, the person that is maybe just starting out from ground zero or from 13 feet below sea level there, there's definitely some strength training and different things that they should probably be doing to help build that base and that foundation. Because some people we work with, to go for a 2-mile ruck with a 30-pound pack might be overdoing it. So it really depends on the person's background and what they've been doing. But if you take a person that's kind of in shape and has the motivation and doesn't have any ailments with their knees or backs or hips, most of us as we get older, we have joint issues or back issues that we need to work around and be smart about. But again, that's where the rucking, that's where the hiking comes into play, and it's so underrated for people's just general health when it comes to keeping your hips mobile, your joints mobile, and decreasing your body fat and all that kind of stuff. Rucking, hiking, whatever you want to call it, is really a great thing, and that's the number one thing that they should be doing. On top of that, it's any type of sandbag work. I've owned gyms in the past, but I'm much more of an outdoors person, and most of my training I do with my clients now is outside. And even in the middle of the winter, we could be outside training. So obviously it's you got to have the right client for that. Right. But I think too many people get focused on having equipment or having the right equipment or the latest gadget or whatever it is. And really, if you just have a backpack, a sandbag, and a good pair of boots, and maybe even an ice fishing sled, like you've probably seen some videos of us pulling sleds and stuff.
Yep.
That right there is an excellent workout. There's so many things you can do with just bare minimal equipment that you probably already have, along with maybe some sandbag and body weight stuff.
It's interesting you said that. I was just telling Travis that I put a big order. I say a big order. I got like 5 items from Go Ruck, all the sand, the kettlebell, and some of their bags, and been kind of walking out and doing some lunges and doing like a 2-mile. And it just kind of started it, just kind of getting the hips, to your point, getting the hips ready, getting the back ready, kind of still doing some cardio, a lot of HIIT stuff, because I just enjoyed that portion of it. But now getting outside, I think that's it's for me more fun to be outside, get a little vitamin D, getting the fresh air, and I'm blessed enough to be out in the country and on some land. So it's not, a concrete jungle, which is great. But I mean, I think you're right. I think there's, carrying 60 pounds of something that is unstable is much different than a barbell, right? In my opinion.
Right. 100%. And there's a time and place for the barbells and dumbbells. There's definitely a time and place for that type of training. I just think a lot of people are too focused on that. But again, to each their own. It depends on what their goals are.
Sure.
Some people aren't as diehard bow hunters as myself, and everything I do is focused around bow hunting, or elk hunting or whatever it is. So not everybody's like that, and I get that. But if bow hunting and going on a Western hunt is something that is of high priority to people, they really got to do that stuff, because it's just like I used to run the Tough Mudders back in the day. I did many Tough Mudders, and it was always amazing. By about halfway into those, you kind of hear people's conversations, because they're either having a great time or they're having the worst time of their life.
Right.
And it's always amazing by the amount of people that say, man, I didn't realize I was going to be doing this much running, in grass or in the, what did you, it's the Tough Mudder. What do you think you're like? It's not pavement running.
Right.
There's so many people that just stick to pavement or the sidewalk or nice smooth trails.
Sure.
You got to get off the beaten path and do your training. So it's that specificity of training. You got to train for what you're going to be doing. When you're elk hunting, and even when you're deer hunting, you're not walking on a nice beaten down path. You might be for a little bit, right? But you're going off camera. You're going, you're kind of going freestyle through the woods there. So you got to spend time in doing that, especially with a load on your pack. And if you are successful, you might have 100+ pounds on your pack, and you're going over, deadfall and steep terrain and stuff like that. So. I don't say to always have heavy packs, but you need to do that at least a few times leading up to your hunt.
So that's a great question too. When you say heavy pack, to me a heavy pack is what I'm going in with. So when I train now, currently, is 50 pounds of concrete, and then that 60-pound sandbag, and I'm doing walking, right? I'll walk 2 miles dirt road, and my goal in that 2 miles is to do X amount of lunges, X amount of squats, X amount of burpees, right? I take my pack off, do a couple burpees, and that's how I've been trying to progress that. Is that, or would you say put more in your pack and use trekking poles, or does it matter?
Well, I think it does matter.
Okay.
But I think a variety is key, and not to do the same thing, every day, to change that up. One day you might go with a lighter pack, and you might take, we use brute force sandbags or whatever sandbag you have with handles or whatever you can do, have that in your pack, ruck for however far you want to go, 1 mile or 2 miles. Take that sandbag out and do some lunges, do some burpee squat presses, some monkey dumps, all that kind of different stuff that we do. Throw that back in the pack, and then ruck back.
Okay.
There's I think also doing having your route and trying to beat your time every so often, where it's just rucking, where you're moving as quickly as you can. But then also, I would say if you're going to go heavy, a heavy pack is, that's kind of subjective to the person that's carrying it.
Sure.
I would say probably for most men, it's going to be probably 80 pounds, 75 pounds and above.
Gotcha.
Some guys, it might be 100 or 120 pounds is what they feel. And a lot of that depends on your pack too, because all these different packs carry the weight differently.
Sure.
But so whatever your heavy pack is, do that I think every other week would maybe be a little much, but maybe every 3 weeks.
Gotcha.
Build that weight up a little bit, maybe go up, 10% or so every 3 weeks, bump that weight up a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So your goal would be then, before you go in September, you're wanting to be at X amount of weight, and whatever you choose that weight should be. If it's 100 pounds, make sure you've rucked 100 pounds for at least a month before you hit the mountain.
I would say so. Yeah. That month of August. So a lot of people make the mistake of using August as their big training month. They're going gung ho.
Yeah.
And you should have that training done by then. In August, you're fine tuning stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You're still doing maybe a heavy pack here and there, or you're doing some time rocks and some sandbag work, yes, you do that, but your intensity should be coming down, especially the last 2 weeks of August, or depending on, I guess, when you're going in September.
Okay.
We all go a little different, but I would say that 2 to 3 weeks before you leave for your hunt, you should just kind of be really tapering it back.
Mm-hmm.
So that when you're driving out to wherever it is that you're going, like, you're chomping at the bit. And you might even feel this is a tip I always tell people, that when you are tapering yourself, you should feel like you're almost deconditioning a little bit. That's when you allowed your body to recover enough that you're probably going to do really well with whatever it is, whether it be a competition, a marathon, or whatever it is. If that's like your a priority event, so marathon, elk hunt, whatever it is, you should feel as though you are somewhat deconditioned before going into that event.
Gotcha.
I don't mean like you really are deconditioned, but just mentally you're going to feel like, man, I haven't done
anything. Right. Sure. Yeah.
So that's when your body is kind of has recovered and is ready to go hard for whatever it is. Because, for us that travel west and we have, let's say, a week or 10 days or 2 weeks, like, that's all the time that we get. Like, we don't live out there. We can't go up and go to the mountains every weekend or do long weekends. Like, we got to make the most of it. So you need to have your body prepped to do that long haul, to go that week or 10 days or whatever it is. And to kind of pace yourself that way. And if you go into that with doing a month of hard training through August, you're probably going to be burnt out by
banged up.
burnt up and banged up by the day 3 or 4 of that hunt. So
we had a Cliff Gray. We had him on a couple weeks ago, and one of the things we talked about was the fitness side of it, and how important, not just the fact that you're fit and ready, but how much better mentally you're prepared. To your point, 7 or 10 days in, you don't see anything for 5 days. Are you beaten down? And then that just starts messing with you a little bit too. And just being physically ready for that extra 3 or 4 miles, or that extra stock, or that extra X, whatever, fill in the blank, is such a big deal when you get up there. That it's, it's so important for guys to understand that, just because it could be miserable day 3 and you're ready to go home. And to your point, you get one shot, you get 7 days or 10 days to go out. You got to make the most of it, so that's a really good point. When you talk nutrition to your guys too, are you obviously a good diet throughout the year, but you lean them more to a high carb before they go, just to have a little bit more energy before they hit the mountain, or just keep doing what you're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's probably one of the more common questions I get is nutrition. And man, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat when it comes to what to eat. I mean, you got the intermittent fasting, you got the carnivore diet. There's so many things there. And what I always tell people is, don't be testing something new out when you go out there, and don't be testing something new out the week or 2 weeks beforehand. Right?
Yeah.
Because you have no idea how your body's going to react to that. So, I've been in the fitness industry for long enough to see all kinds of diets, and the only one that works is the one that you can be consistent with. So I do believe that they all probably do work, but it depends on what is most realistic for your lifestyle, and what is the one that you can stay, that you can be consistent with, and that's realistic for your lifestyle. And everybody's different. Everybody's job is different. What we do for a living, if we're active or if we're sedentary, or do we have a lot of work events and parties that we have to go to? So all that comes into play. So you really got to be able to tailor that to the person. So there's really not a specific diet that I tell people. The number one thing is to be healthy. To eat for human performance to eat for weight loss, to eat for muscle gain, to all of that, those are all different. Mm-hmm. Those are all very different diets that you need. So you got to really figure out, what is my number one goal? Is my number one goal fat loss or weight loss? Well, that diet probably isn't going to be great to fuel you for a 10-day elk hunt. Mm-hmm. So that's why that fat loss it's you got to look at it in a year, in that full 12 months. You can't be trying to lose weight that month or 2 months leading up to an elk hunt. That's when you should be really training and fueling your body to train and to get stronger and whatever it is. So again, not trying to get out of the question, but it really does depend on the person and where they are
sure.
in terms of their journey to being healthier and more fit and stuff. But I always tend to, no matter where they're at, they got to eat to be healthy. So limiting the processed foods, all the stuff that we all know about. Not eating at fast foods and stuff like that. And then, to be honest with you, a lot of the health food, a lot of the protein shakes and a lot of that stuff is more processed than, some of the food you get at the fast food restaurants. So
agreed. Yeah.
You really got to be careful what you put in your body, and it's educating yourself in terms of, people need a little skin in the game. Yeah. And you got to spend the time to educate themselves, and whether that be YouTube or online or hiring a trainer or whatever it is, they got to do something to educate themselves so that they know how to handle it. But so leading into that hunt, then that diet is probably going to be a little different than what they typically have.
Sure. So, yeah, we always tell people to make sure you.
That's one thing Cliff had said too.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It's like I said, don't go making any big changes right before you go out for a hunt, because that's going to do you in. It's going to be the first thing that does you in, because your body's not used to it, and you're stacking that activity on top of it. So just stick with, at least for like a month or two before whatever that activity is, a hunt or something like the Beast Mode Challenge. Stick to whatever you're doing so your body has that consistent homeostasis, and should serve you pretty well.
Yeah, Cliff's. I don't know Cliff. I've watched a lot of his stuff, and he's really smart. He's kind of got a no BS approach to a lot of different stuff, and hasn't fallen victim to all of the stuff that goes around the hunting industry.
So on the fitness side, if people want to, do you have like an app or something you put out for people to follow? How would they find that?
Sure. So if they're local and can train with me, I do my hunter fitness class on Tuesday nights at Tyrrell Basin. And this year I have over 40 people that are signed up to do that. So not that every Tuesday night I have 40 people, but we have a pretty good group every Tuesday night that comes and trains, and we do a lot of rucking and sandbag stuff, and just a lot of different. It's just crazy stuff that I come up with, and it's shooting your bow as well too, with an elevated heart rate and under that type of stress. If they can't do that, I've teamed up with the good folks at Fit to Hunt. They're out of Missouri. And so I'm technically a trainer for them and can do online training through Fit to Hunt. And then I also have some programs that I'm coming out with. There's 2 programs right now. I think we have the first 2 phases of the Beast Mode Archery Challenge workout programs that are 4 to 6 weeks long. And those programs are made to get people from, maybe the couch, or maybe they're kind of working out but don't really know what they're doing, to the ability to do one of our events, and then also to be able to do an elk hunt or whatever hunt it is. So that's going to be a multi-phase program throughout the year that we're releasing different phases. Another one that, to be honest with you, I can't remember if it's out yet or not, but it's the Flatland or the Backcountry, and that's really geared towards the folks that live in the East and don't have the ability to go hike the mountains or whatever it is to get in shape. So that program is designed, specifically to get people from the flatland country to be able to do a backcountry hunt or whatever it might be. But it's also just not for the people that live in the East, because I've driven through almost every state in the West, and I tell you what, most of Wyoming and Montana is flat until you get to far west.
Right.
I mean, that's those guys always say that we have flat country, but my goodness, the eastern part of Colorado is pretty flat too.
It is flat, yeah. It's like it must be part of Kansas, really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So a couple of fun questions. Since you're an archer, we'll flip to kind of the archery side of it. What's your thought? We'll go with just elk hunting in general. Yeah. Are you a high FOC heavyweight guy, or are you a mid FOC flat, kind of lightweight guy?
I was. So I've been shooting archery for a long time, and I love shooting 3D. I mean, I've shot 3D tournaments for a long, long time, and I went from a super lightweight, fast arrow, very flat trajectory, obviously for 3D, especially back in the day when you couldn't use rangefinders. Everything was judging the distance. So if you're off by 2 yards and it's a 43-yard shot, if you have a heavy arrow, that 2-yard difference could be 6-8 inches or more.
Yeah.
And then I kind of got on the bandwagon for a little while, and I went super heavy. I was 600 and some grain arrow with, I don't know what the FOC was, but it's pretty heavy. And what kind of where I'm at now is kind of in between. I think my arrow is 430, 440, so it's not super heavy. It does have some FOC, but more what I'm focused on now. Well, I'll tell you why I switched. It's because I used to always shoot a single pin. And we had this big buck come in. I mean, he was a big buck. And I misjudged him after my buddy missed him. He was filming me. But long story short, he missed him. He trotted out, and he was walking, kind of angling away. I judged him for, I forget what it was. I think like 31 yards, because it all happened that quick.
Sure.
It ended up being 34 yards after I ranged it, and my arrow went right underneath him.
Oh,
and that 3 yards, if I would have had the arrow set up I had now, he would have been a dead deer. But because I had such a heavy arrow, and sometimes when you don't have that ability to range find things, I think that heavy arrow it deters people. I mean, you just can't. You got to be exact on with that yardage.
Yeah.
Depending on your setup, especially out past 30 yards. I mean, you got to be right on with that yardage to make a good, clean shot. So
I think there's a good happy medium, kind of, I think around 450 to like 480 or so is a really happy medium, because you still have enough speed to get it there quickly, a little bit flatter shooting. But, if you do hit that shoulder blade, you hit a bone or something like that, it's still got enough energy that it's going to get its way in through and into the vitals and things like that, whereas, I mean, people still kill, elk with, sub 400 grain arrows, but then again, you always question what happens if I hit the shoulder. Is it going to go through, or is it just going to, I've heard of people having arrows with there's like a 350 grain arrow with a flapper on it, a mechanical, and it literally hit the elk and just bounced right off, and it walked off like nothing happened, So I guess it's a balancing act, right?
It is a balancing act, and it really comes down to what your draw length is, what your poundage is, and all that stuff. But I really like to keep my setup to be around that 280 to 290 at the very fast for speed, So I think in that 280 to 285, you can get the fixed blade broadheads to fly better. Everything's a little bit more forgiving. I think if you get too fast, especially if you get up over 300 and you're trying to get a fixed blade broadhead, I think they're harder to tune. And I just don't think that your setup is as forgiving for a hunting setup. So I like that 280 to 285. So with my latest bow, I just kind of went with that. I was like, all right, this is my bow, this is my draw length. Like what arrow setup am I going to have that's going to have me around that 280 to 285? And like what you said, Travis, I think that speed is you still have a fairly flat trajectory. I can get 110 yards on my option sight. So, because I like to shoot, I love shooting long distance. And again, when I had that heavy setup, I couldn't shoot anything past 75 yards. It just ran out of sight tape, and if I could move it, my sight was going to be, hitting my arrow as it released. So. Yeah.
That's where I'm at too. I think the furthest I can shoot is 65 because I'm a little short little dude, got like a 26-inch woman draw, and so when we do tack, anytime it's past 75, 80 yards, I'm kind of like I have a single pin and then trying to, there's a tree. Okay, that's 20 more yards. There's 80. And I'm just ended up shooting in the air, somewhere and hoping it hits,
Yeah, exactly.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun to do it, but.
Oh yeah. It is fun. And I think that, I think that heavy setup is great for people that just hunt whitetail. If you're going to hunt whitetail and most of your shots are under 30 or even under 25 or 20, then have at it. Just go as heavy as you can and let it rip. But I think
for us pigs too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
We have you heard of the Easy V site?
Yep.
So I tried that, which is a huge mistake at TAC in Colorado. It was a lot of fun to try it just because I wanted to see, one, how accurate I could be personally and where that limit was. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's almost the same thing as if I had that with a heavy arrow, my limit would be a tree stand ground blind. I mean, it is what it is. Past 40, it was, and again, for me, worthless. Great design though. I loved it. Like I'm determined to get it dialed in now. It's going to happen at some point. I'm going to figure that thing out, but not past 40 yards. There's no way.
Yeah. The concept of that is really cool. I know of a guy that kind of struggled with target panic and switched to that for a while. And he's been able to go back to a regular sight after shooting that. He said that really helped with his target panic just because you don't have that dot that you're aiming at. So
it's definitely retraining your mind to how to figure it out though. That was the key for sure. Mm-hmm. And then when you shoot those 1/3 targets, to get ready for tack, it just messes with you even more, right?
Yeah.
So it's definitely
one of the things that helped me most with target panic for a while there was pulling my peep out on a bow, shooting peepless. A lot of people are like, whoa, like that didn't even make sense. And I was like, dude, as long as your anchor points are consistent every time, you don't need a peep sight, man. I was like, sure, whenever you're getting out to, 80, 90, 100 yards consistently for practice or for challenge like beast mode or tack or anything like that, it helps to have a little bit extra edge and accuracy with the peep sight. And I've actually put one back in my bow now, but that was the thing that just having the one less thing to worry about lining up to the target, it just made it so much easier for me.
Right. So, no, that's anything that works. Go for it. That's something that, the whole target panic topic. I've had people say, I can never do your events or what you do creates target panic, the fast shooting or the shooting with an elevated heart. And it's like, actually, most people that do have target panic find that, whatever challenge it might be, especially during our class where we're maybe doing burpees or some type of exercise and you run over, grab your bow, make a shot, you kind of lose the mental part of it because you're just kind of, exerting that energy and you're not so focused on just aiming. It's the whole process. So most people that I've encountered that have target panic, shooting your bow while exercising has helped some people. So.
You may have already said this, but what's your average shots and what are your longer shots under the course that y'all do?
So, our fitness challenge, like the endurance event and the games, I try to keep them realistic, 60 yards and less. And obviously 60 yards would be bigger animals like elk and stuff like that. Then we have our King of the Hill 3D shoot in July. It's the last weekend of July. And that shoot is, people call it the TAC of Wisconsin or the Mountain Archery Fest of Wisconsin. It's we have 40 plus targets. We have 3 different courses. and it's set up for long shots. Our longest shot is last year's 123 yards at the Buffalo. So that we have, I mean, I stretch them out, and there's tough shots, there's tough angles and all that kind of stuff. But that event's for fun. People can shoot from the cone, or they can move up and shoot wherever they want. We're not even keeping, I mean, people can keep track of their score if they want, but most don't. They just come and have a good time with their buddies. So, but our actual competitions, it's usually 60 yards is the most. So. And during class, when we're working out and doing our shooting and stuff like that, usually 30 yards is the most at that point. Otherwise, I have a lot of disgruntled people that are losing.
Right. Bunch of arrows in the backyard.
Yeah. So, you got to be smart about that. I would say if you're thinking about doing something like that, you know, where you do 10 burpees and make a shot, or, you know, come up with 4 or 5 different exercises, then run over to your bow, maybe set where you're shooting from is maybe 40 yards or something. You run over and you make a shot. I would start at, you know, maybe if you're totally new to it, just start at 15 yards, start at 20 yards, and get the feel of it. And it helps to control. It teaches people how to control their breathing, because if you just got done doing that and you're, you know, breathing hard, you know, you got to really bring that heart rate down. There's different breathing techniques that you can do, you know, through the nose 4 counts, out through the mouth 4 counts. That usually within a couple of those counts, you've settled down enough to be able to, you know, at least aim and make a shot where your eyeballs aren't feeling like they're going to pop out of your head or anything. So, but there's different ways that you can, you know, control that breathing. And then all that, again, the reason for this is when it comes to making that shot in the mountains on an elk that you've been dreaming of for a whole year, that you can do it. Because odds are, if you're not breathing hard from going up a mountain or down a mountain or whatever it is, you're breathing hard because you have an elk, you know, bugling at you from 20 yards away, and he's staring right through you. I mean, if that doesn't get your heart rate pounding, then you probably shouldn't be hunting. So,
right. Well, Brian, we kept you long enough. I know you had your class you got to get to, so we don't want to make you rush over there. But I really appreciate you taking the time out, man. This is a great conversation. I'm glad that you came on and kind of talked about the beast mode. I want to come up at one point. I got to just book that trip and zip up there. I think that'd be a blast. If for nothing else, just to kind of meet everybody and have a good time and do a bunch of burpees and, you know, throw up or something. I don't know. But you know,
there's typically somebody that's throwing up at some point.
Just don't be the first, right? Just don't be the first night. All right.
Well, thanks, guys, for watching. Thanks, Brian, for coming on, man. Really appreciate talking to us. Go check it out. And what's your website again, Brian?
BeastModeArcheryChallenge.com.
There you go. Go ahead and check out the links down below in the description. Get a discount on the crafted archery arrows and the arrow and broadheads, as well as easy veins, as scrolling across the screen right now. So thank you guys for watching. And as always, keep defying the odds. See you guys later.